gentlemen, welcome to the Grueling Truth. This is the Grueling Truth NASCAR show. I'm your co-host, Joe Spilman, along with Steve Risley and Ryan Peters. Before we get into our NASCAR show, I want to remind you that the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Steve, Ryan, we got a whole bunch of shit to talk about. So let's get into this. Let's not waste any time. Before we get into NASCAR this week, first of all, Steve, tell me how you're doing.
Well, I'm doing great. I'm with you. I'm with my panel. I only got my panel around me. I'm doing good.
Steve and his panelists are here this week to recap all this weekend's racing action. Ryan, how was your weekend and how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I got a lot of vitamin D this weekend, along with a lot of dirt. And I actually prefer to be part of Steve's posse before I'd ever be part of Steve's panel.
Yeah, Steve, can we be Steve and his posse and not his panelists?
I love it. Hey, I got a question, Ryan. Was that your yard that you were mowing, sitting on that big old snapper tractor or whatever that thing was?
Yeah, that is my yard. And that's actually what I just got done doing. That's why I got here 2 minutes before we got on air.
You know what that land's worth in Los Angeles?
A lot more than it is here.
A lot more? Not even touching it. It's lottery more.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking the $20 million first week lottery. I'm talking one of those lotteries has been hanging around for about 8-9 months. Enough that they start keeping tabs on it on the news. That land you got, you know how many houses they put on that land in Los Angeles? How many
35, Steve. 35. They put 35 houses in Los Angeles, and they would build it all the way up into the smog, and everybody would be sick and miserable because Los Angeles sucks, Steve. They suck.
I thought they measured by tents out there, not houses.
Yeah.
Actually,
you know how many homeless tents they could put on your property, Ryan?
out here, they measure your yard not in acres, percentage of acre. They measure just a square foot. Somebody will come and go, I have 12,000 square foot lot. Okay. In Indiana, I had a 12,000 square foot house. No, if you can get any grass at all, now they've put a water restriction on everybody. You can't water your grass anymore. So
that's what socialists do, Steve.
Let's talk NASCAR, not
yeah, that's what socialists do. Before we get into the Coca-Cola 600, which was an incredible race, let's briefly recap the Indy 500. We were going to do an Indy 500 show. However, we decided not to do that. Ryan's already fallen asleep, and Ryan was at the Indy 500. So, Ryan, I'm going to let you talk about the Indy 500 real quick. Tell me what you saw at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this week. Tell me what you thought about the race, and then we'll move on and see what Steve had to think about it.
Well, the first thing I can say is I've never seen over 300,000 people in one setting in my entire life. And that's exactly what was there. I mean, people can argue about it, whether they want to or not. If, in the media, it was the most amount of people I've ever seen. And they put them in there like sardines in the stands and then let them go nuts in the infield. But, I mean, it was something – it was crazy. I mean, you have the people getting there, as in the one that scans your ticket. She told us she got there at 2:30 a.m. Whenever you're driving, if you decide to get to the track at 6 a.m., you're late. I mean, the traffic's backed up from here to Kingdom Come. They were getting people ready to park at the Lucas Oil Stadium, which, if you're not aware of Indy, that's a few miles from the track. That's where they started to park people. But the race itself, the pageantry is great. They do a lot of stuff at the beginning, back home in Indiana, a lot of stuff for the military. They play taps. In terms of the race, I'm probably not your guy. It was cool for 20 laps, and then I'm like, this is what I thought IndyCar was. Jimmy Johnson wrecked late to kind of make it a little bit more exciting. The most exciting talked about thing was probably a pit road penalty for Scott Dixon, the guy that led most laps. Outside of that, it was the follow the leader 500, but at least we got a beautiful day for it.
It was. Steve, what did you think about the Indy 500?
Echoing off of what Ryan said, I mean, to see the track full, like I used to see it when I was going there when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, and see everybody in the stands, 325,000 plus. The infield being full. Of course, the modern snake pit is not nearly as eye-opening as the original snake pit that I used to go to. The original snake pit was in turn 1. Now they've moved down to turn 3, and they have bands and things there. In my day, you made your own entertainment in the snake pit. So it was a little different world. But, yeah, I think just the pageantry, getting everything back, and I've seen the opening ceremonies. They bring out the old cars and parade them around, and a lot of the old drivers that can still drive, they parade them around in the cars. And it's really it's an incredible atmosphere. I'll tell you what, though, having watched the NASCAR race, I was a little disappointed at the homage paid to the military and things like that. I thought that was a little down. I mean, but I understand NASCAR goes way over the top, but they should go way over the top. And I thought if Indy could do one thing, that single race, we all agree that NASCAR is better than IndyCar in terms of just presentation of being at the facilities there for every race. They could have upped the game on the recognition of our military service and things. It was incredibly cool. They had the Blue Angels fly over. And I think they flew over twice, did they not? Once they did a they flew once
turned around,
and they came back and did a star formation or missing man formation or something along those lines.
And they look like they're that much above the track.
Yeah, it is amazing how good. Well, go watch Top Gun Maverick and you'll see some flying just as good as that.
Right,
and then of course NASCAR ends up with a C-130 tanker. And they get that flying over while Indy's got the Blue Angels. But anyway, I was proud of that. It was great to see that. It's great for Indiana. Speedway becomes the second largest city in the state for that one day. That is the single largest attended sporting event, one-day sporting event in the world. There's not a single one-day event that puts in more people than the Indy 500 does. And they do a great job. Next year, if you go, I got back ways in to where we leave our house about an hour and 20 minutes before the race, and we were in our seats watching some of the ceremonies. So,
Steve, based on off-air conversations I've had with Ryan, I do not believe he is going back to the Indy 500.
Oh, he's not going back to the Indy 500. Well, and that's justified, but I mean, you got to appreciate it. I mean, it's a. I warned you. The first 20 laps are great, and the last 25 laps are great. Everything in between is, get your money out for your souvenir. Go get souvenirs. Get a drumstick, a big turkey drumstick, and walk around and look at people. Is what you do.
That's exactly what we did, actually.
Yeah,
we
that's how it's
50
done.
Laps.
Yeah.
Met a couple buddies that were way full-blown past what they should have been drinking-wise. Probably walked 5 miles and then made sure we got back for the last 20 laps.
You're a veteran there. You nailed that.
I was with some veterans when it comes to attending that race. We got a police escort because the guy I went with is in law enforcement. So that's the way to go. If I had to not do that, there is no way I would go because I could not believe the traffic. When I say, like in Indiana, some traffic, and Steve, you obviously are in LA, so you know all about traffic. I have never seen traffic the way that this is called traffic. It
is. You're trying to squeeze 325,000 people into on 2 or 3 or 4 lane city streets. You're not doing it on the interstate. And we used to make a ritual of it. You probably came in on 16th Street, correct? You don't know because you were just following somebody.
I'll tell you where we came in, Steve. We came in between 1 and 2, right next to the golf course.
Yeah, you came in. So we used to get to 16th Street about 10 o'clock the night before, park our cars, and we had a cooler and snacks and stuff there, and we partied all night long, and that's how you did it. You partied, and then you got up and you were close. You were in the track tracks gate usually opened at 6 back
Hi,
then.
Paul.
I'm not sure what it opens now, but it opened at 6, and we just marched right in, got a great spot in the infield, and everything was hunky dory. Anyway, that's enough about that. The race
That is
itself,
enough
I
about
thought
that.
the start of the race, in my opinion, was fabulous. Everything that I said would happen happened. Scott Dixon took off into the lead with Palau, I think, first, and they were dueling out, trading spots back and forth. I believe it was Palau, wasn't it?
Simon, Palau, whatever his name
Yeah,
is.
Palau, yeah.
And they just kind of switched back and forth.
But the word is they were doing that intentionally to save fuel. Each of them, they were giving up the lead and letting the other take it. That's a common thing because you're trying to get the tow. Remember, NASCAR calls it a draft, IndyCar calls it a tow. It's one and the same thing basically. Not a lot of wrecks. Fortunately, not a bad wreck that put anybody in the hospital or on air ambulance or anything like that. So that's great. Race went pretty much according to plan for everybody. The one thing is that, as you mentioned in yours, the telltale thing is here's Scott Dixon running away with this thing. I mean, absolutely no car. If he keeps that car together, if a part doesn't break, there's nobody going to touch him at all. He's going to win by half a lap because he hadn't cranked it up, dialed the speed up yet. I'm sure he still was on fuel conservative mode. But then he comes into the pits, and for some dumb reason, that's how fast those cars go. You miss your mark. He's a second late on the brakes or something like that, and boom, he comes in too hot. And that cost him his face on the Borg Warner, cost him $3.1 million, and the love and adulation of being a two-time winner at the Indianapolis 500. One silly mistake. That's Joe. That's what makes betting so damn hard. Anybody that bet on Scott Dixon, I mean, it's just stupid human error that caused that and cost a lot of people money.
Let me answer a comment real quick.
Okay.
Hey, Paul, how are you? They don't let me talk much on this show. I'm just kind of here. It's good to chat with you, buddy. All right, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, we do.
That wasn't a question, Joe.
Yeah,
you said you're going to answer a question.
I figured I'd get a word.
If you're going to be a smart ass and you're going to say something like that, at least answer a damn question like you said you're going to.
Oh. Yeah, and Paul, it's by design. We don't let him talk too much. Yeah, but we do.
Hey,
we do
Joe, I got a question for you, Joe.
What?
Between lap 50 and lap 200, what was your favorite part?
Every time I got up and walked to the refrigerator to get another beer.
Go ahead and finish your race breakdown.
I'm with you. That was my favorite part too. And then the race just kind of got into its lap 21 to lap 180 or 179 doldrums, where that's where you go do your shopping and get yourself some beverage and food if you haven't brought it with you. And you come back and watch the last 20 laps of the race, and the last 20 laps of the race got really good. There was some competition. Dixon was already out of the picture at that point, so now you've got 2 or 3 cars that have the Speed Pato Award, and Ericsson were putting on a really what I thought at that point was dialing up to be a great battle all the way through. And then leave it to a NASCAR driver to screw things up for Ericsson, and parks his teammate, and his teammate. That's right. And parks his car into the wall with what 10 laps ago, 5 laps ago, or something like that.
It was 6 laps ago because they ran 2 caution laps and red flagged it.
Didn't they do a stop? Yeah, they stopped.
Yeah, they red flagged it.
Which it's questionable whether that's the right thing to do or not. I see what it is for marketing and for, and Penske actually came out and addressed that at the victory banquet. He said that we know we did that. We know that's a little unusual, but we want to provide everybody with a green flag finish, and if we have to do that, that's what we're going to do here. Because we want a green flag go out finish, and so I respect that. Roger Penske's he's the god of auto racing as long as he's alive, and it's his call. So, but it put Pato or Ericsson in a tough spot, but he withstood the storm, came out and outdueled him completely, and I'm just glad he won because did you see his fiance? Holy cow!
I watched like 4 people fall down the bleachers.
Oh, did you?
That's all I got to see, and that was actually my favorite part of the entire race. is watching somebody 40 steps up, head over heels down a set of bleachers, and then get up like nothing just happened.
Oh, I know. Alcohol's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
That's the fastest way to the bottom of the bleachers.
Yeah, it is. Fastest way down.
And it was really sore for the people that were bowling pins on the way down as well.
So my wife did that. We were sitting in a high in Market Square Arena. That's how old we are, Joe. Market Square Arena was still not torn down. And we went to a Bob Seger concert. And she
you could have just led with that to prove your age.
She slid down. She slid down about half the flight of stairs, going down right down to the mezzanine section of Market Square Arena before I could get to her.
Hey, you want to hear something funny?
But the ending was great. The ending of the race was great.
That's not. Go ahead.
No, what you got to say?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, you want to hear something funny since we're telling funny stories?
Sure, definitely hear something funny.
So Ryan and I were doing radio the other day, and I swallowed a bug right in the middle of the broadcast, and I couldn't quit coughing. Had to take my headset off and everything, walk away, sit down. And I sat down, and Ryan and I were kind of joking about this on the radio, and I said, my partner over here, and he goes, whoa, that's partners like on the police force, not like partners. like he couldn't handle the fact that I said partner on the radio.
Yeah.
Because apparently in 2022, that means something totally different.
Yeah, and with Joe, you don't know. So, like, I don't want that to escalate, and then I get rumors, and
look at it this way. Look at it this way, Ryan. It's Joe's homage to pay tribute to the week that's coming up here, starting June, 14th or something like that.
It started. It's already.
Was it already started?
Oh,
Has
yeah.
it turned into a month
which
now?
is fine. I just thought that was funny.
And I think it's now just called Pride Month.
Yeah. Maybe.
Well,
that's what it's called out here.
Well, and I think to kind of give a backstory to it,
which
Steve,
is fine.
He said, I'm his partner, and then gets upset that I didn't try to save his life because he swallowed a bug. And I'm like, number one, that's your fault. You swallowed a bug, not mine. I'm not going to do nothing. And then number two, don't get all like partner abusive towards me because you're sitting over there dying in front of everybody. I'm trying to save the broadcast.
But Ryan, you were supposed to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
That's what he wanted. That's
what he wanted.
And after COVID-19, Steve, I don't do that.
I'm gonna tell you, if COVID-19 didn't exist and Joe was laying there coming to death, I wouldn't do it.
Steve, I got 2 hot dogs, made a crucifix, laid it on them. I said, "This is the Lord's work. I hope it works out."
All right, we better get back to racing. We're gonna lose everybody.
It made a cross on the table.
Oh, good golly!
Anyway,
the Indy 500 finished in grand fashion. What a great ending to the race! It was a beautiful day in Indianapolis. The people there got to see the Thunderbirds fly over at low altitude a couple of times. We saw it on TV. I know, Ryan, you were there. That's a spectacular sight in its own right all the time. Those guys, we've actually met those guys. Well, those pilots change every 2 years, but the group that was there, one of my friends' wife's brother was a pilot for the Blue Angels. And so when they came to Indianapolis for the air show, we got a VIP meeting with them and got to see the planes up and close. And tell you what, those are brave young men. The only disappointment, I don't know if it's really a disappointment. The only thing that, and Joe, I think you know the name of the guy, but was Jimmy Johnson getting the Rookie of the Year award. And
I think that's
I don't like to begrudge anybody that, but I don't know. I just think I think Jimmy Johnson got the Rookie of the Year, Indy 500 Rookie of the Year as more of a joke, Steve, than anything else. I don't put a lot of stock into that award. There was 2 other drivers that were rookies that finished better than him. Devlin DeFrancisco and Christian Lundgaard, who finished 19th and 20th. So I think, and actually finished the race. So I think that is more of a joke, or kind of more of a look. This almost 50-year-old guy just won the Rookie of the Year in at the Indy 500. So Yeah.
I do know some people were upset about it, but it is what it is. It's kind of funny, kind of cool. And at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit that much because it's an Indy car, and I think it's
No,
cool.
I
it got the award.
get it. I get it. I get it. You know, it's certainly I get it. Yeah, I think it was a manufactured thing for him to get that, and you know, Penske's not dumb that if he can stay in the good side of NASCAR, with the tracks NASCAR has control of and owns, that just opens up Penske's world even more with IndyCar to do more things with it and maybe partner up some with NASCAR on weekends or who knows? You know, who knows what goes through Roger Penske's mind. He is a racing genius. But let's move on to NASCAR.
Yeah,
now, that's the Indy.
Yeah, let's get into NASCAR.
Yeah,
and I'm going
IndyCar. I'm ready to go to NASCAR.
I'm going to say this for the sake of our first segment because Ryan and I talked about this. As you know, Steve, Ryan and I, and if you're listening, Ryan and I went to the World of Outlaws event at Lawrenceburg Speedway on Memorial
and I'm
Day.
jealous.
Which was an absolutely incredible race. The only complaint I have is sprint car races need to be a tad longer in World of Outlaws. It was 30 laps. Good atmosphere. It was a good crowd. My wife and my son, who went with the race with me, we got absolutely plastered with dirt all night. Couldn't ask for a better race. Kyle Larson goes from 16th to second and was actually going to win the race. I believe he was going to win if it wasn't for a last lap caution. Alex Bowman and Christopher Bell, notable NASCAR drivers that were also there. However, Alex Bowman failed to qualify for the feature, and Christopher Bell just was not in good equipment. I do not believe he finished, I think, third to last. Actually, he didn't finish the race. He actually went out. But Ryan and I were talking, and one thing we saw during that race is Casey Kane. I believe that's who it was, right, Ryan?
Yeah, it was Casey Kane.
Casey Kane wrecked and tore the whole front end of his car up. He was able to take that sprint car down on pit road and change the whole front end out. What?
Pit road, which is a slab of dirt on the back.
Yeah, which is technical talk for a slab of dirt in the infield.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but he was able to basically change out the whole front end of that car in 2 minutes. And that brings up two things that we've seen in NASCAR as of late. One, the 5-minute rule, right? You can't get your car back out in 5 minutes. You're done.
Are we moving on to NASCAR there?
Yeah.
Really?
This was.
I had a couple questions for you, Joe.
Okay. Well, ask your.
Okay,
Ryan,
two
do you
of
want
them.
to recap the race at all, or the World Outlaws race?
Well, I think we probably said enough about it. I mean, I'll leave that up to Ryan. But my two questions, Joe, are one: did you make sure your wife had plenty of Mountain Dew?
It was too hot to drink Mountain Dew, Steve. We took a half a case of water in with us and a couple Mountain Dews, and we walked out with a couple Mountain Dews and no water. So. Okay,
all right. And the second question is, I know how dirt track races are. I've been there. You said you were getting pelted with dirt and dust all day.
Yeah.
Did you go home with your wife and have dirty sex?
No, Steve.
You took showers before you did it?
Yes.
Wow. No authenticity at all.
And thank you for saying that because my son's probably watching. I appreciate that.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't say this was a G-rated show. Tag nabbit.
Jesus, Steve. Anyway, but I'm sure a lot of people.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Mike. Mikey.
But I'm sure a lot of people did, Steve. But I'll keep that between me and my wife for now.
Okay.
Maybe off air we'll get into it.
Good idea, Joe. All right, go ahead. Let's talk about this because this affected more than one driver too.
Yeah. So my question is, you go and watch a World of Outlaws race, and with a limited number of people, limited mechanical equipment, they're able to change out the whole front end of the car. And I know we're not talking about a next-gen car, but the amount of work that they were able to get done and get that car back out on track in 2 minutes, is it time that NASCAR needs to start reevaluating their 6-minute rule, garage rule, because these cars are so modular. I guess that's the right word. You know, Ryan, we talked about the toe link and the problem that who hit the wall this week and bent their toe link that they were trying to change out on pit road?
That was
Chase.
Who was that?
Elliott.
Yeah, Chase Elliott.
Chase.
Yeah.
Effectively ended his day.
Same thing happened to him that happened to who's the other driver? The guy. Oh no, Bubba Wallace.
Yeah.
Right.
Bubba Wallace
So-
and Elliott both got caught on that. Go ahead.
Does NASCAR need to reevaluate their thinking? If these cars can get back to the garage and get that changed out, I mean, they could do it quickly. Do you believe that there's some changes that need to be made in the way that NASCAR handles being able to fix cars after minor fender benders? And Ryan, I'll let you go first.
The reason why this rule was implemented, the 6-minute clock, is because they didn't want cars that were out there dragging the sheet metal and it blowing off halfway and, running 40 mile an hour slower than anyone else. But, so that's the reason why the rule was implemented. And now the 6-minute clock goes away if you get up to a certain speed. And obviously that's dependent on each track. When it comes to this toe link, this is just a bar. Okay. If this is the way that your suspension is set up, for the car, this is the toe link. Once that breaks, the tire then decides to go inside the car. It's just a simple bar that can't be fixed on pit road. But if you went to the garage, you could probably have it fixed in 10 minutes, and half of that's getting the car jacked up. Go ahead, Steve.
No, Elliott fixed his. Elliott fixed his in the pits.
He did.
Oh, okay.
Elliott's problem was when he tried to come back out, they were under caution, and he couldn't get the minimum speed into the caution.
That's
And
way
so
worse.
they bumped him into the garage because when he re-entered the track within the 6-minute period, he has to be back up to minimum speed. He's in the middle of a caution. That's the fallacy and stupidity of that. That caught Bubba Wallace too. Wallace had the same thing. If you read the article about Bubba, and Joe, I'll let you talk about it, your article, but that's what killed him. He got his car replaced. They showed him replacing it. I mean, they showed him taking the wheel off and working on it. And the big bar, there's 2 big bolts. They cut off the old one. They snapped the bolts out and stuck a new one on within the 6-minute period. But then he goes out and gets back in line on the track, and he's lost only a few laps at that point, or I don't know how many. I mean, he's not going to win the race, but he can score more points. And they're under caution for like 5 more laps. And that 5 laps, 6 minutes expired. They told him you got to go to the garage. You're done.
Yeah,
his car was fine. There was no damage to his car.
Right, that's a fallacy. But I'm not the 6-minute rule in general. I mean, if you take your car back and you have to work on it for more than 6 minutes, you're out of the race.
Well, you're out of winning the race, but you're not. Well, okay, you're right now.
No,
you're out of the race.
You're disqualified.
Yeah, you're done. You're done.
Right, you're right. Yes. I'm sorry.
And I think that NASCAR needs to reevaluate that with how modular these cars are.
Agreed.
I mean, some you're not going to win the race. You're not going to go down 15 or 20 laps and then come back out and be able to compete in the race. But you can get your car back out there. You can become a factor in the race because lap cars that aren't going to win, always become a factor in races, and it's part of the sport. But I think for NASCAR to say, hey, even though you can get and what happened with Elliott is just ridiculous. If you're going to say you can't maintain minimum speed because you're under caution, then kick you off the track for that is absolutely asinine.
Well, that happened to Bubba too.
Yeah, and
that's what happened to Bubba.
Somebody needs to say, this is asinine. We're not doing this. But if you could get your car behind the wall, fix it, and get it back out on the track and get your sponsors more airtime on your car and get that car back out there and maybe score some points, but you're not gonna finish anywhere in any of the stages outside of to really pick up any points. But if you can go back out there with your car not being wrecked and in good position to race, you should be allowed to do that. And I don't think that there should be a time restriction. And when you look at that may play watching these crews try to get cars back out before they're ready to go. That may be a safety factor anyway, in my opinion. But I just think it needs reevaluated and somebody needs to take a different approach and look at that, in my opinion. Go ahead, Ryan.
To expand on that, Joe, I think the thing that was kind of funny about this entire race is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, and I appreciate you I thought they actually tried to bend it back in place. I didn't know they replaced the whole thing. I thought they were.
They had a hard time getting
the
it
old
off.
bar.
Oh, yeah, they had a hard time getting it off. Yeah, they were struggling
okay.
getting it off. So they finally cut it off.
Alcohol in the Indy 500 definitely played a way into
That's
my
okay.
6 hour.
Great. I'm glad you went. I'm glad you experienced it.
No, I'm glad you guys corrected me. But so the thing is, like, they could have got that done. I believe he wrecked in stage 2 or 3. It was really close into that time frame. There was 20 cautions in this race. Okay, Chase Briscoe wrecked on the next to last lap, went a lap down and finished 4th. There was more than enough time in this race for something mechanical to get fixed that had nothing to do with the integrity of this next gen car, because it is a carbon fiber car. So now it's not sheet metal hanging around everywhere. If it hits something, it's more likely to push something in or puncture a hole that you can simply cover up with Bear Bond. So outside of that, they don't let Chase get back on the track, which now he would have had at least, a 90% car, if we're being facetious.
No, the announcer said Boyer and who was the other guy calling the race?
McMurray.
McMurray both said, no, when he gets us back on, his car is fine. I mean, it's like he never wrecked once you get that.
Yeah, I'm actually giving a 10% benefit of the doubt and just said, okay.
Yeah, he's not going to win the race because he's too many laps down, but he can accrue points.
But you don't know that because it's 600 miles and there was so many cautions to give waiver rounds.
Yeah, you're right.
And find his way back into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, but then on the last lap, they let Ross Chastain race with his bumper completely folded underneath and splitter folded underneath his car. They wave the green flag. He just goes backwards 14 spots when he was in second place.
Yeah, so tell me about that, would you? Tell me about that.
It's just asinine because you can clearly see that's a car that's not going to run well because it's got way more going on with it. But NASCAR's like, well, shit, if you don't pay it, as long as he's out there, we don't care. Versus this guy needs to change one bar. He could do that in less than 10 minutes and run exactly the way he was, or at worst, 90% the way he was.
Right. And my concern about Chastain's car was, man, I don't know how much damage has been done to that radiator.
Oh, yeah.
That radiator blows, that whole engine blows up, then you got a melee.
Right.
While he's sitting there. But the thing about that rule is, we all agree, Elliott or whoever got caught in that Wallace weren't going to win the race. But let's say this right now. I remember many a year where the points differential between 15th, 16th, and 17th was 3 or 4 points.
Yep.
All right. So if you're like Bubba sitting back there in 18th place, and even you get your car back out there and can pick up 3 more points than if you just park it in the garage, you got to go get those points. I mean, it's getting that NASCAR, time of year now where it's getting antsy for people. Austin Dillon proved that. He showed you what a desperate driver will do to people. And now it's going to be like this for the rest of the races of the year. Guys that have an opportunity are going to go after it, but that's just a case where they should have let Bubba back on. Bubba's car was clean. Elliott's car was clean, and both of them in the 6-minute rule. So, Joe, to answer your original question, hell yeah, they need to reevaluate that rule. These cars are built to get back on the track. They're built durable, built tough. And they're not the car of last year that just ripped apart to shreds. I haven't seen sheet metal hanging off a car yet. There is no sheet metal. It's carbon fiber, isn't it, or composite? Yeah. It's a composite material.
It's composite body like a carbon.
Yeah, I haven't even seen a car really tore up unless it got so bad in a wreck that it's got to be hauled away on a flatbed. So, yes, they need to change that rule immediately. And the second part of that is stop the clock while there's a caution. Because Elliott would have gotten back to speed, they say, by the way that the announcers were even talking about, he would have been back up to speed in a lap. And all you got to do is hit speed one more time. Then the clock goes away.
Right.
So, and then Bubba, Joe, you read the article. Tell them how Bubba got busted.
You
didn't read the article? Okay. He got busted because he'd gotten in a wreck and tore his rear end up, his balance, his tie rods or whatever off a little bit in the back.
Yeah, he slowed down the back.
They said him to slow down. They said, just save your tires to the end of the stage. Let's get through the stage. So the idiot slows down below minimum speed. So the minute he goes below minimum speed, they put him on the clock. Okay. And so nobody tells him that he's got 2 minutes left until a caution throws. So now he can't get back up to, he could have, by all accounts, it sounds like he could have gotten the car up to minimum speed and turned that clock back off. But a caution comes out, and now he's riding around the track at 50 miles an hour and can't make minimum speed. I would have said, at that point, I said, crap, and I'm taking the penalty, blowing past the car and getting to minimum speed. They're only going to do is stick me at the end of the longest line anyway, and I'm already there. So.
Right, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So that's
Can I make one
rule.
addendum, Joe? Can I make one
You sure
addendum to this? The only thing that I would say to this rule is that you got 6 minutes to make minimum speed once your car gets back onto the track. Or if you want to do it by laps, hey, you got 3 laps, green flag laps to get up to minimum speed. If you cause a caution between now and then because something comes off your car or you can't get up to minimum speed, you're Dairy Queen. I don't give a damn if it takes you 50 laps to get back on the track because NASCAR wants you to race in between the race to get as many points as you can. That's why we have stages, okay? So they want you to keep racing in the middle of this. That's why they made the middle of these races important. And the way Steve is talking too, not getting up to minimum caution speed has a chance now to affect the regular season championship, and that's stupid. I mean, if you're going to let Rick Ware cars go 20 mile an hour slower, but they look good on the track, then there's no reason you can't let a car that's going 5 mile an hour slower than it originally was to get back up to speed in a Hendrick car or any other car that's actually worth a damn compared to these guys, running 160 when everybody else is running 195 and they're at 100%.
You leave J.J. Yaley alone.
Well, tell your brother
Ryan,
that he sucks.
Ryan, here's the ultimate stupidity. First off, you took 2 of the poster children for NASCAR off the track. Yeah. I mean, Elliott and Wallace they're 2 of the poster children for NASCAR. Every time you see the banner with the 5 or 6 drivers up there,
by
they're
Fox's
both in it.
standards, you are correct.
You are correct. Yeah, they're the poster children for it. And the thing is, both those cars, given an opportunity, could have met minimum speed.
Yeah,
their opportunity was blocked because NASCAR threw a caution. They should say, first green lap, you better be up to speed once we get to full speed. Once you cross that start finish line, you better be running minimum speed the next time you come around or you're parking. That's all they need to say. But that's unfair because Elliott's car was not banged up at all. I don't think Bubba's was banged up any either. They just had mechanical issues. They took care of them, came out the track, were ready to run, and there's cautions for both of them. That's somebody's drinking too much moonshine up in the scoring tent. That's all I have to say about that.
Let me ask you this, and this gives us a perfect segue talking about wrecks and getting cars back off. And one thing I want to mention in this show, we've got to witness again this week how absolutely incredibly safe these next gen cars are. And I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but we saw the worst wreck of the year, I think, this year. I can't think of one worse with the Chris Buescher rollover. And I actually learned something on that wreck. One thing I noticed is the complete tire assembly. The tire broke completely off of the car, dug into the ground and flipped that car. Yeah. I guess I didn't realize, Steve, Ryan, that those wheels were actually tethered to the car. And I think that is incredibly smart because that would have, flung that tire who knows where if that wasn't the case. But
that's an IndyCar gift. IndyCar started that.
When they flipped that car over and took it off, I mean, it had some damage, but if you remember last year and the years past, you see rollovers like that, there's just pieces flying off the car everywhere. And they designed to be that way to take away, to alleviate the force of the rollover or the impact of the crash. And this car rolls over and rolls over and rolls over. And at the end of the day, Buescher's no worse for wear. The car's a little tore up, but held up incredibly well in a very violent crash. So kudos to NASCAR on this car again. Steve, you got any comment on that?
Yeah, what was interesting about that, Joe and Ryan, was that they, Humpy Wheeler, had taken out all the grass and put in the artificial turf. So all that green you see, what looks like grass, is artificial turf. They did that because the old cars with the splitters, that's when they would dig down. Remember, they would come off and hit a bump coming off and they would get airborne, come down, and that splitter would act like a shovel and dig them right into the ground and then start flipping the car. This year, Humpy, along with other tracks, have replaced that grass with AstroTurf, which is kind of like yard turf. I mean, a lot of people out in California, they can't get any water, have that as the fake grass in their yards. They just take out the grass and put in this AstroTurf or fake turf. And I'm surprised that, because there was usually heavy gravel under it. I mean, it's pretty unforgiving. I mean, it's forgiving in terms of you shouldn't dig through it. And he didn't tear up the grass, and he just bounced off of it right, and somehow it just stuck into that artificial grass and flipped him. It's weird how that did that. Because all of our sons have played football on artificial turf, or mine has. I may be the only one old enough to have a son old enough to do that yet. But they will, trust me. And it's just a different cat, and I'm surprised that it flipped even there. But it was spectacular, but safe. IndyCar was the same way. There were some good crashes and good. There was some makes it good when the driver gets out and walks away. That's what makes a crash good. But the same thing, IndyCar, a couple of guys hit the wall pretty hard coming out of one or two, and their car was pretty well destroyed because everything's built to fly off of it, and they got out the cockpit and walked away too. So you're right, Joe. Testament to the safety of what all of auto racing has done. And sadly, we probably can't thank Dale Earnhardt just for waking everybody up to the fact that we need to change things here. I mean, and Tony Holman or Tony George was the one who basically created the softer barriers. I think he had the patent on those. And Indy 500 was the first place to ever use the softer barriers. And now all of auto racing uses them, except Europe doesn't. They still use guardrails, I think, in concrete. Or they're basically road courses, so they don't have a lot of barriers anyway. But so be it. Yeah, good call. These cars are
Brian,
safe. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, you got.
No,
any
I think
comment on that?
I think the most important thing that you said, Joe, is like the car doesn't come apart anymore. That's what surprised me. It's almost like when you wreck your Hot Wheel now. It's like, you might bend or something like that, but there's not going to be pieces flying apart. The only thing that I did see, and Brad Keselowski commented about this on Twitter as well, is they're saying they're taking so long to turn them over. If a car's not on fire, they're not going to rush, and they're going to do it as soft as possible. Because even if the driver says that he feels okay, he could have a slip disc in his back, he could have a cervical injury that he can't feel. And the last thing you want, and we saw a very small impact just from the back tire go down and hit like this, break the back of Eric Almirola not that long ago. You don't want that same type of compression, because those are the worst type of fractures, is going like this with your spine. So it's okay. As long as Chris Buescher says that he's okay and he doesn't mind hanging out upside down a little bit, that's a lot better than trying to just hurry up and throw the car over. When there's not a fire, we can wait 3 or 4 minutes for a car to get turned over safely because the driver inside is okay. So that's the only thing that I had to say about that, more importantly, because people need to realize that there's a lot more dangerous things that happen, and it's better to be safe than to be sorry. So, and those hurry everything up.
Those are straight from the mouth of a physical therapist too. So
there you go. They said it took a dutiful 7 minutes to turn the car over, and I'm sure a lot of people are going, why don't they turn it over and get him out of the thing? But you're right. You got to do it gingerly and do it. You have to assume he's injured until you get him out of the car. You assume he's hurt.
I agree with that.
Do no harm. That's first
I
in the Hippocratic Oath. First thing in Hippocratic Oath of any healthcare professionals, do no harm. So just take your time, roll it over. We're not going anywhere. Exactly. And get him out of the car safely, and let's go.
We'd been a lot more pissed off if they said the ARS or AMS crew turned him over too fast, and now he has a slip disc and he can't race for the next month and a half. We'd have been a lot more critical of what that was versus, we all had to go to the bathroom. We found our favorite chili dip and then came back and everything was good to go. So,
that's one thing I wanted to address that kind of surprises me about NASCAR is, and I just marveled at Indy's safety crews. Those guys, I tell you what, the car is rolling the minute a car starts spinning. A pickup truck with EMTs on it are rolling the minute somebody spins. And if you watch it, you can see the visibility of the truck, not the ambulance, but just the safety truck on that car as it's coming to a stop. I mean, it's just kind of following it to where it's going to rest and stop. Those drivers, those EMTs or those safety crew people are on it entirely. And that crew follows IndyCar to every circuit. They don't just take what is given to them for each track. That's a dedicated, paid crew with all their Jeeps or their trucks and equipment. They're put on haulers like everything else and taken to every single IndyCar race. I think we're getting to a point where NASCAR really ought to think about that and start looking at some package like that where they do the same thing. They have a dedicated safety team that knows the drivers, knows the cars inside and out, and knows all the mechanical workings of it. I would, as safe as we all feel, I would feel safer if I knew that was the case. That I had the same guys that go to these cars every single time. And I think that's a great thing IndyCar does. So see, Joe, IndyCar's not that bad.
I don't disagree with you, Steve. And I do want to say, to your point, Ryan, these cars even look like Hot Wheel cars when they flip over now.
Yeah, they do.
You know? Hey, before we move on to our next topic, though, I do want to remind everybody that the Grueling Truth and our NASCAR show here is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sports book that's right for you. And guys, as we move into kind of our final topic about this week's race, and Steve, I actually didn't send you this topic because I totally overlooked it, but we have to talk about Cliff Daniels' pep talk to Kyle Larson in the middle of this race.
Oh, yeah.
So
why did you send it to me?
I didn't think to put it on the sheet when I sent it to you. So I just kind of added it. So that's my fault. But you know, that's going to go down in history, even though Kyle Larson did win the race. To me, that's one of the best sports pep talks I've ever heard in my entire life. So, you know, he essentially said, you know what, Kyle, you've gotten 3 pit penalties. Your car's caught on fire. You've wrecked twice. But we're not even halfway through this race. Nothing's hurt. You get back up there and win the race. And it worked. Yeah, it worked.
He was leading. He was in position. Yeah, he was poised to win it. If Dillon doesn't make a stupid move.
I should have, if I would have thought about it, I would have got the audio for it and played it on the show tonight, but it was just something that kind of hit me late. What did you think about the pep talk, Ryan? I know we talked about it a little bit a couple days ago, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, you paraphrased it pretty good. You know, he's like, so where we are right now, Kyle, you know, we've had 3 pit road speeding penalties. We've been into the wall 2 times. We are the only team that left pit road on fire. We had one of our crew members hit, and we're still halfway through we're not even halfway through the race yet. So if we can get our shit together and keep our heads high, you can do the same. And he goes, yep, got it. You're right. And so it takes somebody like that to kind of reset you, you know, a checkup from the neck up, and that's what he got. And it goes to what we talked about in the pre-race show. This is such a long race. This is a testament to endurance. And at times, you don't even need a guy that's good at strategy. You need a psychologist there on top of the box. And, you know, the greatest drivers have always had good crew chiefs among them. And, you know, Cliff Daniels has been really good for Kyle Larson. I think Kyle Larson obviously had some self-induced penalties to get them in the spot that they were in, but you know, it takes a team, and I think that showed more than anything. NASCAR is not about the guy just behind the wheel. That's a big part of it, but if you don't have a good team and you don't have a good leader leading that team, you're not going to end up doing well, and that's a championship driver with a championship crew chief. So, I mean, I think it just speaks to what kind of relationship they have.
Yeah, I think the announcers were calling Cliff the best life coach in NASCAR.
Yeah.
He's definitely got a career.
This guy's the best life coach. He's a life coach, man. That was great. That was fun to listen to. I'm sure that's going to be played over and over again. But there was a lot of truth in what he said. So,
if he would have won, they would have printed it out, and every coach would have had it in their locker room.
I might put it in. I might put it in the locker room anyway, Ryan. I mean,
I'm not sure that still isn't going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. it was incredible, and I thought we needed to mention it to wrap up the Coca-Cola 600. Ryan, like you said,
Well,
it was definitely.
I can see it. I can see it. Halftime of the football game, you're down 47-0. All right, our quarterback's thrown 5 interceptions. Our running backs fumbled the ball 7 times. Our kickers missed everything but the parking lot.
Our water boy
Our
broke his
defense
leg.
is missing. Yeah. Our defensive linemen are tackling each other. But hey, it's only halftime. We can fix this thing.
Yeah.
That's a little different sport, Steve, but yeah, we might get
Hey,
an opportunity to try that.
It's applicable.
But
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
yeah, like Ryan said, you guys know it was the longest race in NASCAR history. But closing out this week, this is debatable.
Really quickly, what's our thoughts on the fact that is 600 miles too long?
No. I was about to say
I think not. I agree. I think not for one race. I think if they did it multiple times, but the fact that it's a unique novelty as it sits there on its own, and it's the longest oval race in the world. Nobody else runs 600 miles on an oval. 24 hours of Le Mans, those things are, but they're on road courses and they're designed differently. But I didn't mind. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I don't think 600 miles is definitely not too long now.
Agreed.
We've seen with these next gen cars, if you got more than 14-degree banking on a 1.5-mile track, I think it's going to be a good race now. These cars performed well at the race again. It's a fun race to watch. These NASCAR, and I still see all over social media people bitching about these next-gen cars, and I don't think they understand it. NASCAR won with these things. They have done. I've seen it, right? Some of the older folks are still bitching about these next gen cars. See Ryan over there giving me looks, and but I think NASCAR hit a gold mine with these. They did it right, and it's made at least the last couple 1.5 miles that we've seen. As long as there's banking in the turns, it makes them fun races to watch. It makes them good races to watch. So I don't think 600 miles is too long. It's actually fun. You get to watch it. I know not many people could do it, Steve. I know me and you did the triple this weekend, and it takes a lot of stamina for people like us to be able to do that. I was up at 9 o'clock in the morning, watched the F1 race, then the IndyCar race, and then the Coca-Cola 600. And of course, we talked a lot of shit. We said we were going to do a post-race show, and I could not do that after I was not physically able. After the 600 got over. However,
this guy was. It
was about 12:30, 12:45 Eastern time before it was done.
Yeah, and
it was probably my favorite. My time.
Yeah. It was my favorite race weekend of the year so far. I do believe, even outside of Daytona, and it's probably up there in my top 2 races of this year. So I thoroughly enjoyed the Coca-Cola 600, and hopefully we get another show this week, which I think we will, but we'll get to that in a minute. Do you have any ending thoughts on the Coca-Cola 600, Steve?
No, I thought it was a great race, very great cap to a wonderful day of racing all across. Although the F1 race was, as I think one of you said, it's a parade. Unfortunately, on that track, it is always going to be a parade because those track is just not wide enough to competitively race. It's just competitively follow past somebody when they're in the pits and things of that nature. There's just no room. But F1 is Monaco. I mean, you look for the celebrities and the idiot announcers that go up and put a mic in somebody's face and don't know who the celebrity is. That's what's funny. IndyCar was spectacular to see all the people back in the stands, and NASCAR, the safety of those cars, and know this about the next gen car. This is the first year of them being on the track. All right, give these guys, these crew chiefs and these engineers, give them a year or 2 on this next gen car. They're going to have those things dialed in so tight, and they're going to be so safe, and they're going to be faster and stronger, and they're going to be able to do more things with them. They just haven't figured it out yet. It's too early.
And I don't know how
they're running them like they're right out of the box. Basically, they're going to eventually start making changes and dialing these cars in, and figuring out how to find those gray areas and get in those gray areas real quick. So
I agree.
great day of racing, 3 good events, and a couple of great races.
Ryan?
The only thing I'd have to say is that somehow the guy on the pole ended up winning the race, and you would never know that if you watched the race. You would have thought, oh, it was like the IndyCar race. The guy on the pole won. It's like the guys up front were literally only up front because they didn't die. I mean, Kyle Busch missed what looked like a final destination wreck on an interstate and somehow went and made it through. I have no idea. We could have almost had an incredible finish going 4 wide, like you said, if Austin Dillon wasn't Austin Dillon and try to pull up in front of somebody where he wasn't door bumper clear. It was just door bumper. But, at the end of the day, it was a great race. We've harped on Fox's coverage. I thought they actually did a really good job for 600 miles to keep people interested. Again, the patriotic support that was shown. It was a sellout. NASCAR went way and above and beyond for what they did for the Veterans Day stuff. So I thought what could have been a very long night, which still was, it was entertaining from start to finish. And for 600 miles, that's a hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah,
the only thing I would say about Fox coverage, Ryan, and this is, there's nothing they could do about this because I know it's scheduled at which lap they're going to take breaks, but it seemed like the first 5 or 6 breaks that they took, as soon as they get back from commercial break, hey, we're under caution. It's like, well,
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
But, kind of.
Like I say, NBC was just as bad because I think 3 of the 5 wrecks in the IndyCar race happened while they were in split screen selling a commercial. Okay? You see in the split screen the wreck happening and everybody coming. And it's like, okay, let's get rid of the commercial right now. We'll replay it, and after we find out how the driver in the car is doing, and get full screen on the wreck. They didn't do it either. I did feel that NBC stole Dale Earnhardt from NASCAR and brought him to the league, brought him to IndyCar.
I wasn't happy about it. It's almost little E is at the Indy 500 while the Coca-Cola 600's kicking off. I don't.
Well, but
it just doesn't seem right.
He's an NBC paid employee, so that's probably why he was there.
No, I get it.
Yeah, the other thing was, let me ask one more question to close it out, if I can. Let's talk about real quickly. We mentioned it briefly earlier. Austin Dillon and his antics in the last 4 or 5 laps. He went in, put first car up, had fresh tires, blew through everybody. I mean, just annihilated everybody coming through. And are we going to see that in a lot more races now? Because, Dillon is a guy who's really only going to qualify now by getting a win. I think his points production is low enough. Are we going to start seeing this every race where these desperate drivers are just going to bust their way to the front no matter what, and whoever they take out is taken out, but they're going to win? And that to me is Austin Dillon's personality. So
yeah, I think it's time for that, and I think there's better drivers, but we've already seen that out of Martin Truex. I don't know how many 3 races this year where he's pushing himself way too hard at the end of the race, and I think we do get to that point now that we're going to start seeing desperation, and I think that's what that was out of Austin Dillon. One, he thought he could win the race. I don't think he's a good enough driver to be able to pull off what he was trying to do, and that became very apparent. But I think we do start seeing these Martin Truex, Austin Dillon, and other drivers that haven't got a win yet. Maybe a Kevin Harvick if he gets up there. Which Kevin Harvick had a great day, and we're forgetting about him. What did he finish, 3rd or 4th? Third. Yeah. So he's right there, and I do think that we start seeing that out of some of these drivers that are just on the cusp of making the playoffs, and to ensure that they make it, we're going to see that more and more. I think these next couple of races. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that? That's a great question, Steve.
I think we've seen it all year long. How many times have I been the only guy that said I don't want to see somebody getting wrecked on the last lap versus an actual race? So I think this has happened multiple times. The only difference is Austin Dillon wasn't yet in first. He would have been if he would have stayed in his lane, but he wasn't. I mean, hell, we've seen Chase Briscoe do it twice now, including this race. I mean, he tried to send it, and he made a rookie mistake. He should have got in front of Kyle Larson when he had the opportunity. And then the very next lap, he said, oh, hell, this might be my only chance. And he damn near wrecked himself out. So I think we're obviously going to see it more. It's going to be, do we see some really good racing like we saw with Kyle Larson and Chase Briscoe for about 10 laps? Or do we just see Joey Logano just slam somebody into the wall again because he wants to win?
Probably that.
Probably.
All right,
that.
Joe, I got one more good question. I came up with another one.
Okay.
Are the Toyotas back for real, or was this a 1 or 2 race wonder for Toyotas? Are they back? Because if they are, it's going to be a hell of a second half of the season here between the Chevys and the Toyotas. And you got some Ford drivers that finish in the top 10 this race too.
I don't think.
What's your thoughts? Everybody dialing the cars in now, or
no?
did Toyota find something
so.
that nobody else knows about?
I don't think Toyota was ever out of it. If you back and you look at where, I mean, Denny Hamlin started off bad. He started the season off bad this year. I don't think that was his car. I think that was a lot of luck. He put himself out of a lot of races. But the Toyotas, I mean, he early in the season, we talked about Kurt Busch before he got his first win. You know, every week, week in and week out, it seemed like he was finishing in the top 10. You know, and just being kind of quiet about it. The Toyotas at the beginning of the season were quiet about where they were finishing, but I don't think there was ever a problem there. I think if you look at probably the manufacturer that's probably in third or having the most trouble dialing in the cars right now, I would say overwhelmingly is Ford. But I think right now what we're seeing midway through this season, or less than really midway through the season so far, is 3 different manufacturers that are all right there on the cusp of being pretty much even. That's what I'm looking at. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan?
I'm not using this race to judge anything. I mean, this was a war of attrition. So if you were able to keep your car clean, I think that's the only thing that you saw out of that. And we had veteran drivers up front with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick. So, I mean, that's the only thing that tells me when it comes to manufacturers is that it was just really guys that found a way to keep their nose clean for the longest amount of time. I think Toyota obviously has done well in the mile and a halves. But again, they all qualified really good, and then they completely disappeared in the middle, and then they had quite a few drivers that still had 4 wheels on their cars. So it's hard to tell from this race if they're up with Hendrick or even Trackhouse at this point. But they did have 2 drivers going for a win, and Christopher Bell quietly 5 top 5s in a row.
Yeah, bear in mind too that Toyota still only has 3 wins, don't they? 2 by Hamlin and 1 by
Kurt Busch.
Kyle
Kyle's got 1, and Kurt Busch has 1.
Kurt, so Toyota has 4 wins then.
Right.
So,
but they only have 6.
And I believe they only have 6 cars running. Okay, Chevy's got 7 or 8 wins, I think. So,
Lewis, we can only broadcast this in English. I'm sorry. So
I'm not even going to touch that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're right. And really, if you go back and look, you can't judge manufacturers by the Bristol Dirt Race. You just can't. That's not going to tell you which manufacturer is running the best. I don't think you really evaluate them by the super speedways, and I don't think you evaluate them by, the short tracks in general, like a Martinsville. So how many races have we actually, in the Coca-Cola 600 being a war of attrition, like you said, Ryan, how many tracks have we actually had this year where we could sit down and really analyze which manufacturer is running better? So, we only get a couple of those. We've only had a couple of those. And I think really, if you really want to see the true test of a car, you really have to look at them on the road courses, in my opinion, anyway. How well do they handle those? So that's my opinion, and I know some people may differ from that. Talking about the coverage and not getting back into the coverage, I do want to mention before we move on that the Indy 500 saw 4,618,000 viewers, as well as 350,000 on hand to see the race. And I do believe Charlotte was sold out this weekend. They didn't even have camping spots left.
It was sold out
this week.
It was sold out.
Yeah.
And they and to go off that, Joe, WWT is sold out. They've sold out 57,000 grandstand, the suites, and 1,200 camping spots. That doesn't include the people there. And also announced that the championship race this year is already sold out.
All right. Well, that is good news. 3,869,000 people tuned in to watch the Coca-Cola 600, which is very good numbers, I think, as opposed to 1,396,000 American viewers for the F1 race. So NASCAR is doing very good this year in ratings. They're doing very good this year in attendance. I know race a couple weeks ago, it didn't look like they did well in attendance, but the ratings were there. So I think moving forward, I think
it was Texas.
Yeah, there you go. I wasn't going to say it,
Texas.
but I think that's good news for NASCAR moving forward. And as you said, the race this week is sold out. So to sum that up, you guys ready to move into this week's race?
One last thing we should address here, and that's just the regular season point standings. Now, really, beyond the top three fighting for one, it really doesn't make a lot of difference because if you're not in the top three, you're probably not going to be competing for the regular season championship at the end of the year.
Right.
So then you got to be in the top 16. But you've got Chase Elliott at 489, Ross Chastain at 455, and Kyle Busch at 452. You got three drivers there all within about 25, 30 points of each other. It's still over half the season, right at about half season to go. All right, now that regular season championship, I believe, takes away a guaranteed spot from somebody else because all the drivers competing already have wins. So that guaranteed spot is not going to come into play. But it pays a pretty hefty bonus. As I recall, I thought it was like $1 million or something like that to win the regular season championship. And you get like 15 playoff points, don't you? That's
25.
25 playoff points. That puts you at the number one spot in the playoff. You're seeded number one automatically. Especially this year when the points are so evenly divided among all the top drivers. So that race for that playoff, that regular season win, is going to become real critical. And that might be something that you see guys like Elliott, Chastain, and Busch give a lot of thought to. Do I need to win this race or do I need to finish second and get the points and keep it up there?
Well, and one thing that to notate that Kurt Busch now has one win, but he is at 20th in points. So he has to finish strong every week to stay in that top 20, in that top 25,
top 20.
and doesn't slip. So I think, at the end of the day, if Kurt Busch is looking at a top 5 finish or trying to send it to for a win, I think his best bet is to stay conservative and finish that race.
Where he is, yeah.
I think Denny Hamlin, he has 2 wins, but he's 17th in points, but he is in. Austin Cindric's 19th in points with 1 win. So, I think at the end of the day, if Cindric finds a way to get back up toward the top of the pack, he needs to be thinking the same thing. So I think a little strategy is going to come into play here.
Yeah, those of you who are still listening to it, that's a great thing to start keeping an eye on now when you're following your drivers. Look at where they are in the standings now, because if they're 15 to 20, they're even though they've got to win, they could be in trouble. Or if you're in the top 3, you're going for 25 playoff points and a whole lot of cash for your team. Because I know that money generally goes to the team owners. Driver gets a cut of it, but doesn't get all the $1 million. So, I think that's just something I watch every week and see where, because Elliott obviously is leading the points. And right now I want him just to keep his butt up there so he gets that 25 extra playoff points, because that's going to carry him. That alone can carry him through the first 2 rounds if he doesn't wreck out. And then the points kind of start bunching up again. But that's good. Almost a ticket into the 3rd round. But anyway, okay, sorry. I'm done with one more things. They've all been good things, but
It was a great point, Steve. But let's move on to this coming week's race, the Enjoy Illinois 300 at World Wide Technology Raceway. And Ryan, what could you tell us about that track?
It's a flat track. It's kind of like a hybrid. If New Hampshire and Darlington made a baby, it would be Worldwide Technology track. I mean, it's flat in the corners. There are 2 different types of corners, and 66% of the people driving in it have never raced on this track competitively before. So, to say
it's a paperclip type track, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It looks like it's a paperclip.
It's an egg. It's like Darlington. One's one corner is a lot shorter and the other corner is a little bit rounder, but it's not nearly as banked as
Right.
Darlington's. So this
a
is
key note on that, Steve, is it's so the start finish line is flipped where it's at Darlington. So they go into the short turn 1 and 2 first, and then in the wide turn 3 and 4. So it's kind of opposite of what the paperclip is, but yeah, it has nowhere near the banking. This is flat track, and I think I put this down here. Turn 1 and 2 have 11-degree banking, so the short turn has the hairpin. It's not really hairpin, but the short turn has 11-degree banking. The wider turn 3 and 4, turn 3 and 4 have 9-degree banking, which isn't hardly anything, as you know. I mean,
That's what
Bristol's
Indy has.
more
Indy has 9-degree
banked on the straightaways. So, yeah, I think
Ryan? What's the length of the track?
I think it's 1.3 miles, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. About 1.3 miles.
1.25 is what they listed at, but that's splitting hairs.
Right.
I saw it because Joe's got it written down. Yeah, Joe's got it written down on his cheat sheet.
I don't agree with that because some say 1.25, some say 1.3. So it depends on what sheet you look at.
So it's a medium range short track.
Yeah. So what do you expect to see this week out of the drivers, Ryan?
That's the great unknown. It depends on if we can get multiple grooves. The only thing that I would say is if you want to do your research, and that's what I'm going to do, is going to see how these trucks and Xfinity cars go on this track, because the last thing you want is this to be a one-groove track compared to what the racing that we've had been. And New Hampshire's usually a good track to watch multiple groove racing, even though it's flat. So I hope we get more of that, but I really don't know. So I'll be paying attention. I know the trucks normally have a really good race here. There's a lot of people that race trucks that really do enjoy going to WWT, and I think that's kind of why the Cup Series has made its way here. So we'll see. I mean, normally WWT is in the middle of when NASCAR goes somewhere else where they typically don't race trucks. So I'm with you guys. I when it comes to making picks this week and when it comes to doing more gambling things, I mean, you're really gambling because a lot of these guys have never been here before. So it's kind of hard to even know where do you end up making your educational base guesses.
Good point. Steve?
Yeah, I wrote down 3 words. I think that grip is going to be at a premium. Because there's not a lot of banking, it's going to be hard to get the car. You're going to have to decelerate to get to a flat turn with these heavy cars. That's kind of why they kind of went away from the Brickyard 400. Track was just too flat for those cars to really run on at the speeds they could run on it. I think you're going to see desperation. It's a short track, basically, as far as I'm looking at it. Reminds me kind of about Martinsville, really. Martinsville about that same length, or is it 3/4 of a mile?
No, Martinsville. It's a half a mile, barely.
Yeah.
Is it? I thought it was bigger than Bristol.
You're talking about the Monster Mile. No, Martinsville and Bristol's a little bit bigger than Martinsville, actually, I think.
Well, I still think that, and so you're going to see a little bit of desperation there, and now I forgot what the third thing. Oh, you're going to see a lot of bumping and grinding. Be a lot of body on body going through turns. Tied that with the desperation of some of these guys to get some points or get a win out of this. I think your aggressive drivers are going to move to the front. The question is, they're going to be able to stay to the front because they don't piss anybody off too badly. Just don't hit Harvick, whatever you do, because whoever you are, he'll just put you into the wall. So he's one of the drivers who's in a little desperation mode right now too. So
Agreed.
That's what I think.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. What I was going to say is what I would pay attention to in practice, you're going to have to shift in this course. So we saw people like Chase Briscoe, who does like to shift, and a few other drivers this year that have shifted in the turns. I would watch in practice and see really who comes out on top of practicing and see who's able to find the best rhythm when it comes to this track. Because I think it's going to be one of those races that really does come down to off-throttle time and whoever does best shifting And you can learn that in practice, especially if you want to, try to make a bet on this race. There's going to be some telltale signs early, who likes it and who don't, and listen, because they're going to tell you on the broadcast, I'm really struggling, or this car ain't worth a damn, and use that whenever you decide to make a bet this weekend.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. So let's go into our picks for this week's race. But before we do that, I do want to remind everybody that the Grueling Truth and the NASCAR Show is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet to find an online casino or sports book that's right for you. If you like one of our picks this weekend, head on over to betting.net. If you're not familiar with gambling or you're new to gambling, do a quick search there. It'll recommend the best casino or sports book for you to go in and place a wager. And a lot of times, except last week, Ryan and Steve, we actually do, or except last week, we actually normally do really well with our picks. I believe this Saturday, Ryan and I will be doing another show to talk about some of the games that they are playing on FanDuel and DraftKings, like we did last week for the upcoming races, and talk about kind of the setup for tournament play and fantasy play on the races. That's kind of a fun show to watch. But right now, guys, last week I came out of the week with 3 points. I got 2 points for Kyle Busch, 1 point for Kyle Larson, and I came out with 3 points. Steve, you had 1 point last week for Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
Not a great week, Steve. Neither I didn't have a great week either. Ryan, you had.
I'm still 1 week away from you. Don't worry, buddy. You
Yeah.
have a 1 point week and I have a 10-point week, and guess what?
Yeah.
Ryan, it's not done yet.
You did the best this week with 4 points. You got 2 points for Crybaby Bush, 1 point for Alex Bowman, and 1 point for Kyle Larson. So season total, Steve, you have 43 points on the season. I have 46. Ryan, you have 33. To caveat, Ryan's 33 points. He did not pick the first 2 weeks of the season. So on average, at the end of the season, we're going to have to break down an average, and we're gonna determine this week that way who got the most points on average each week, as well as a point total. So let's get on into our picks this week. And Ryan, I'm going to let you go ahead and pick first this week if you would like.
All right. Well, I have not wrote anything down, so I'm going to go completely off my brain, off of my picks. So I'm going to go with guys again that I kind of like road course guys, off throttle time, shifting. So these are my dudes. I'm going to go Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, and then my last driver has been doing well, and he's been running really well at these other tracks, and I think he keeps the momentum going. 4 top 10s in a row. I'm going to go Ricky Stenhouse.
Ricky Stenhouse. That's how I'm putting it down, too. Ricky Stenhouse. Steve, you want to pick second?
Sure. I'm going to go with I'm taking my homeboy. I'm not giving up on him. Elliott. Larson. I got 3 picks left?
You do.
Boy, I'm torn between William Byron or Bowman.
You take them both if you want, Steve.
I can, but I don't want to. I got other drivers. I'll get my other 2 in. You know what I'm going to do?
What's that?
I got 3 picks left?
Yes.
I'm going to take both Busch brothers, Kurt and Kyle. This track's right up both their alleys.
Okay.
I like that pick. My last pick is going to be Byron. I don't know. He's not been running well lately, but he's capable. And my
BJ
other one,
McLeod had a top 20 this week.
JJ Yeley's looking good, Steve.
JJ Yeley, I know.
BJ McLeod and Cody Ware.
Cody Ware. Let's hear it. Why don't you take Bubba? Bubba Wallace, I got you.
He can't run on these courses.
He can't run on any course, Steve.
I,
That's why you need to pick him.
I'm taking who have I got? I got Elliott,
Austin Dillon.
Larson, Bush and Bush. This is a race Austin Dillon can win.
All right, you want him?
No. Geez, yeah, I got 2 picks I want to make.
You got 10 seconds, Steve, and we're picking your driver out of a hat.
All right, count it down for me.
9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alex Bowman.
That's okay. All right. Well, mine are going to be easy. I'm going with veteran drivers this week for obvious reasons. I think you have to. I'm going with Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. The only non-veteran I am going to take is Ross Chastain because I think he's driving the wheels off his car. So we'll see how he does. That's kind of
You're just going to keep giving up points to Martin Truex Jr. every week, huh?
I am, man. I
had him down to pick.
He's racing well. He's just acting stupid at the end of the race.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's just not finishing.
Is he racing well, Joe?
Yes. What is he? He's like 8th in points.
Okay.
Who'd you take, Joe, one more time?
He's 5th in points. What, Steve?
Who'd you take, Joe?
Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch. I got to scroll back down and look. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Ross Chastain.
Playoff points, he's like 15th.
I don't care. He's only 15th.
What matters come the playoffs.
He's only 15th.
All right.
Practice,
all right.
Man.
All of us a little different here. Some points are going to change hands here. We all got different picks.
Yep.
Couple holdovers. But
I'm probably going to go in order this week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just go ahead and effectively end this race we got going. But that's my thought. But guys, we had a little bit longer show than normal tonight. We did kind of recap the Indy 500 into the same show.
About our exploits and personal stories at the beginning of it.
Right, and we talked about some personal stories. Steve called me a dumbass 4 times during the show. So all that together led to a little bit longer show. I called you a dumbass once. No, I made that up just for ratings, Steve.
Ah, good. Well, don't.
Ryan, do you have any final thoughts?
Ask Johnny Depp. That's slander. That's slander, according to Johnny Depp. He got $10.4 million off that.
You keep badgering me, Steve. I'm going to come right over and shit in your bed.
Okay, you dog. Ryan's over going like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, that's the guy that wanted me to save his life when he swallowed a fly. That guy right there.
Ryan, give me your final thoughts, if you have any.
The only final thought that I have is, like I said, pay attention to qualifying and practice. Listen to what people in the booth have to say about this week. I think either this week will be really good from a Fox broadcasting perspective or really bad. I have no idea what Michael Waltrip's going to bring. Usually on the truck races, he's really good. But if he tries to feed off the comedy hour that will be Clint Boyer, your ears may bleed. So get MRN tuned up very quickly. Agreed.
Steve.
Good news toward that, Ryan, is there's only, 3 more races?
I think 4.
Two more until 26th, the weekend of the 26th or whatever. The last weekend in June is when NBC takes over. So, all right, whatever. That's good. Final thoughts. I think we've spit them all out. Great day for racing, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun this week. A new track, nobody's been on it, and it's going to be it's going to be a crapshoot because it's the first time most of these guys have driven on this track.
Agreed. I don't really have too much more to add about what we're going to see this week. I think we've covered it all. I do want to thank everybody that stayed tuned to listen to us rant and rave here for the last hour and a half. It's been a great show. Again, you can catch Ryan and I Saturday night after qualifying to talk about some tournament play on FanDuel and DraftKings. That is a fun show. So
how do I get booted off that show?
Oh, you don't gamble on FanDuel and DraftKings?
Well, just because I don't gamble doesn't mean I don't know about gambling.
Well, you don't play. You don't play the game, Steve. You're not on the show. Gambling's not even legal in your state. It's just how
It's
it
legal.
is.
We have more casinos than Indiana does. Trust me.
So, but
We'll
anyway,
have a post-race show Sunday as well.
and
What?
we will have a post-race. We will have a post-race show Sunday after the race, and we will all be able to coherently make that race this weekend. So we will see you about an hour after the race ends this weekend. Again, I want to remind everybody that the NASCAR show and the Grueling Truth are powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sports book that's right for you. Ryan, Steve, have a great night.